Hello, folks. My name is Susan Bell. I'm a librarian at the University of Tasmania, and in this video, I'd like to talk to you about choosing effective search words to use in library databases and web search engines. If you stick with me, you'll learn the difference between keyword search and a search using subject terms, as well as how to identify effective keywords and subject terms to use in your own research. Let's start with the familiar. Good old keyword search. Almost everyone knows how to do this, as keyword searching has become a daily activity for most of us. In fact, it's so familiar, it's almost a reflex. When we see a search box, we slam in some search words without too much thought. These sloppy search habits may produce acceptable results for everyday web surfing, but they can lead to problems when you're looking for more complex information and using tools that don't harvest everyone's search history and try to anticipate what we might want. When faced with a serious research question, whether it's one you've created yourself or one that's part of an assignment, many students begin with a search that looks a bit like this. Essentially, what this student has done is copy their research topic into the search box as a sentence. And there are a few reasons why this is not the most effective way to do a keyword search. Firstly, the student who created this search seems to have forgotten that databases and search engines don't know what words mean. All they can do is match what you type into the search box with the words that are in the database. So I'd say there are a few important words missing from this search, like maybe Aboriginal or Indigenous. Secondly, this search does not allow for the fact that most databases and search engines use what's called an implicit AND, meaning that every single word in the search box must also be contained in the results. So it isn't a good idea to crowd the search box with unnecessary words. Let's look at how these two things work in practice. Here's an example of a book that would be a great place to begin reading about Aboriginal experiences with healthcare in Australia. The search we just looked at won't find this book, because the words in the search don't match the words in the library catalogue record for the book. We can't search the full text of the book, because that isn't included in the library catalogue. All we have to match against are the words in the title, the author name, and the subject headings. Here's an example of a journal article that would also be highly relevant to anyone researching Aboriginal experiences with healthcare in Australia. The search we just looked at won't find this one either, even though there are a lot more words included in the database record for a journal article. That's because only some of the words in the search are included in the article, and the implicit AND rule means that the database is only looking for articles that contain all of the search words. So how do you make sure you're using the most effective keywords in your search? The first step is to make sure you're concentrating on the main concepts in your research question or topic. There will usually be around 2 to 4 main concepts in a question. If you have more than that, you're either including unnecessary words, or you may have more than one question, and you should split them up. For example, if I'm researching the impact of advertising on childhood obesity, my search will include the main concepts: advertising, childhood, obesity, plus synonyms and alternative terms for those main concepts. Some of you may be wondering why I have not included the word impact in my list of search terms. Impact is not an effective search term because it isn't a main concept. It's a word that describes the relationship between my main concepts. And there are a lot of other words that could be used instead of impact to describe that relationship. Because of the implicit AND rule, I could easily be excluding relevant results that use the words effect or influence instead of impact. Now, I could include all the alternative words for impact in my search, but this would probably be a waste of time, because articles that include all 3 of my main concepts will also most likely be talking about the relationship between those concepts, so I don't need to describe it. Impact, in this case, is an example of an unnecessary word that should be left out of the search. Sometimes it also helps to think about broader and narrower words that relate to the main concepts, as these can give you more options to focus your search if you have too many results, or widen it out if you have too few. You can usually do this by asking more questions about your research topic. For this example, these questions might include: what kind of advertising affects obesity in children? How is this advertising delivered? What age groups am I most interested in? When you have mapped out the most likely keywords to include in your search, you can use them to build up a more effective strategy. In this example, I've used the OR operator to retrieve 4 broad sets of results and make sure I haven't missed any useful possibilities. Then I've combined these 4 sets with AND to focus my search. The tiny segment where all 4 circles intersect is where my most relevant results will be. It isn't always easy to think of all the best keywords for your topic at the beginning of your research, because it's only by reading that you learn how different authors are describing the topic. Keep an eye out for new search keywords as you read, particularly in the titles, subject terms, and abstracts of the articles you find in your early searches. The words listed as subject terms can be particularly helpful, as they are expressly designed to help researchers find what they need. Subject terms can be called by a variety of different names. Some databases call them subject headings, others call them descriptors. There are also well-known sets of subject terms that are widely used in certain fields, like the MESH or medical subject headings. No matter how they're labelled though, the important question here is, how are subject terms different from keywords? The answer is that unlike words in the title, abstract, or full text, subject terms do not come from the document itself. They're applied later by the person who creates the record for the database, and their purpose is to make it easier to find the books, articles, and other documents you need. The practice of adding subject terms to make documents more findable stems from the days before the internet, when online keyword search wasn't possible, and library research involved looking through thousands of printed cards stored in hundreds of drawers like these. But even though the technology for search has improved, subject terms are still tremendously helpful tools. The easiest place to see this idea working today is by doing an image search. Images don't contain any text that can be used to do a keyword search, and my search here for puppies only works because someone has added the word puppies to these images. Along the top of the screen, you can see other words that have been added to some of the images that will allow me to focus my search further. These are effectively subject terms. The hashtags used in social media also function in much the same way. If I upload this picture of a bicycle, I might give it the hashtag red bicycle or red bike, and this would be helpful to anyone searching for photographs of red bicycles. But I could also give it a bunch of hashtags that are not designed to help people who want pictures of red bicycles. I could even give it a totally misleading hashtag like blue banana, because there are just no rules. And this is where user-generated headings like hashtags are limited as search tools, because they're just too varied and uncontrolled. In academic databases and library catalogues, librarians and indexers use something called a controlled vocabulary, which is basically just a big list of agreed subject terms that we can add to a document to make it easier to find. That's what the Library of Congress subject headings in the library catalogue and the MESH medical subject headings are. Big lists of agreed terms. The advantage of controlled vocabulary subject terms for you as a searcher is that in situations like this, it doesn't matter what words have been used by the author. If it's about red bicycles, then it will have the subject heading red bicycle, because that is the agreed term. When you put keyword searching and subject term searching together, you have quite a powerful system for finding what you need, because the combination of the two increases both the comprehensiveness and the precision of your search. If I use Indigenous Australians or Aboriginal Australians as subject terms in my search, I make sure that I've included all the articles in the database that have been tagged with those terms. Then I can add more specific keywords to narrow my search in different ways if I need to. When you notice helpful subject terms in your search results, try telling the database to look for those words only in the subject field. There'll often be a drop-down menu near the search box that allows you to do this. You can also search for subject terms if the database you're using has a thesaurus. This option is usually only available if you're searching a single database. Different databases will usually have different subject term lists, so when you search across several databases at once or use tools like Megasearch, the effectiveness of subject term searching will be slightly reduced. Most databases will have a section in the help menu on how to use the thesaurus. Thanks for listening, and I hope you'll find some of these strategies useful next time you run a search in the library databases.